welcome back to the Building Your Brand podcast. And in this solo episode today, I'm going to be doing a bit of a debrief of my podcast event, which happened last week. Now, if you haven't seen me talk about it, that is surprising because I've literally been emailing about it, putting it on Instagram, LinkedIn, like I've been mentioning it everywhere, is including this podcast. But basically last week, and this has been a dream of mine for a really long time, I hosted an in-person event where I recorded 2 podcast episodes and I had a live audience watching, and it was incredible. It was such an amazing experience. It was very scary. It definitely felt like the next step out of my comfort zone. I think part of that was less about interviewing the guests in front of people, and it was more about the whole event, like the event as a whole, how people experienced it. I felt very responsible for everybody having a good time because obviously it was my event, and I was thinking about it, and I have hosted smaller events in the past, but this was the first time that I was hosting something on my own of this size that really it did all just rest on me. So in the past, I think when I've done events, it's always been in collaboration with someone else, or I've been involved in other people's events where I've shown up and I've been speaking, or I've had some sort of involvement, but the actual running of the event hasn't rested on me. So I thought it'd be fun to do a little debrief. Okay, overarching on the whole event went really, really smoothly, and almost, I would say, better than I ever could have expected. I'm so pleased, and I think it is possibly the thing that I am proudest of in my career so far. I mean, there's lots of things that I'm proud of, but I feel really, really proud about it. And I'm trying really hard not to just rush on to the next thing, the next goal. And I'm trying to take some time to really absorb that, to enjoy it, to recognize what a big deal what I did was. And I don't know about anybody else, but I do find it really easy to just do something, be like, oh yeah, that was amazing, and then just move on to the next thing. So I'm trying hard not to do that. So let me sort of run it through with you. Now, I started planning this event or thinking about this event, I think 1.5 years ago. I think it was about a year ago that I started chatting to the guy in Cardiff whose studio I often record in, to see if he would be up for doing the tech aspect of it. And he was on board, but there was quite a few moving parts that needed to come together to make this event work, and getting sort of everybody on the same page for the date and things like that were harder than I expected. Also, finding the right guest was harder than I expected. Not in the sense that I asked lots of people, but I had to spend a lot of time thinking about who I was going to ask and who I thought would be good. I didn't ask anybody else. I only asked Gavin. Gavin was the only guest that I asked, but like I said, I spent a bit of time thinking about who I wanted to ask and who I thought would work well for this sort of event. So my goal had been to do it last year. That was a big goal of 2025, was to do a live podcast event. And lots of other things came up, which meant I kind of put it on the back burner. The main ones being that I got asked to speak at Adobe Max London and Adobe Max LA, and those were a real big deal for me. I'm also very proud of those things, and that was huge. And so I kind of really focused a lot of my energy on those and doing those really well. And so it meant that my event went on the back burner slightly. By the end of the year, I had found the guest that I wanted, and I'd asked him, so Gavin, and he'd said yes. I'd found the venue. I did also visit some other venues, but I'd found the venue that I'd wanted to use. And then I was gonna try and squeeze it in at the end of last year, but after having a good chat with my friend Lois, we were like, no, this is not something that can be rushed. It needs time. So we pushed it back to early 2026, so in February, which was totally the right decision. And yeah, so it all started to come together. So the sort of logistical tricky bit was I needed to find a date that worked for the venue, the speaker, and the sound guy. And then get everything booked in. And then once I'd done that, and I guess because I did push the date back and I had a bit more lead time, that was a little bit easier to do, then I could start promoting the event. And I actually started selling tickets back in December, so early bird tickets. And then, yeah, I basically had 3 months to sell the tickets. So that was really nice. I had a couple of goals when it came to ticket sales, and that was I wanted to get a minimum of 50. And then I guess like 100 was kind of my maximum slash ideal. So if you're interested in the numbers, I thought I'd share them with you. I sold 71 tickets, which I was really, really pleased with. Quite a lot of those were at the early bird cost, so that was £20, and then the full price was £30. I also gave away a bunch of tickets to students, so I wanted them to be able to come for free to, come to an event that maybe they wouldn't normally be able to afford to go to. And because I'd done some speaking at one of the universities in Cardiff, and I had a friend who was lecturing on the illustration course, we had like a few different ways of offering those tickets to people, so that was really cool. So overall, I think if everybody who was like on the guest list, so that includes people who were helping, tickets given for free to students, and paid tickets, that would have been 103 people, I think it was. And then I think on the day, 82 showed up. So I was very, very pleased with that. There's always like a drop off rate with events. Obviously, if it's a free event, the sort of dropout rate is much higher. With this one, there was like a few of my friends who'd bought tickets and weren't even planning to come, but they wanted to support me. There was a few people who were planning to travel, and like travel plans, train plans just didn't work out nearer the time. And like some of the students who got their tickets for free didn't show up. So yeah, there was all sorts of different factors. But yeah, I was so pleased with those numbers. I think I probably could have done more to promote it. I keep thinking about a talk that Hannah, who was also a speaker at the event, gave last year. So she spoke at a conference that I went to, and she did this brilliant talk, and part of it was all about how with your marketing you need to be 10% more annoying. And I definitely could have been 10% more annoying. Like I could have talked about it more, promoted it more, but I'm so pleased. Like it felt like a really good amount of time promoting it. I feel like I talked about it really consistently, and I'm so happy with how many people showed up and how many ticket sales I had. And the other thing that's really nice is the venue was pretty big. I think technically the capacity of the venue was 200, but I really wanted there to be space at the back for people to mingle and chat. And so it was really nice because when the recordings weren't happening, people were getting drinks from the bar, they were all chatting, they were talking, and it just felt like everybody had enough space. So I think it was a really nice number of people for the venue. So that was great too. I guess like one of my fears, because like I said, this was my event and I felt responsible for it all. It was almost like when you're a kid and you're planning a birthday party, and there's always this like underlying fear that no one will show up. And so I did have this kind of like, oh my goodness, what if all these people don't show up? But thankfully they did, and 82 people were there, and that's awesome. So that was really, really cool. I think one of the things that was like hardest was sort of working out who to get to help me with all the different things. So actually I wouldn't say it was that hard. Like quite a lot of people I knew who I wanted to work with. So I had Tom taking my photos, I had Marie getting some content for me, I had other people who just came and helped me and supported me. So Matt, who was actually one of the sponsors of the event and is a really good friend of mine, he came and helped me like set things up, put the pull-up banners. My friend CJ came along early and helped me set things up. My friend Joe was on the front desk welcoming people. So there's so many people that helped and supported, and that was amazing. Also, huge shout out to my friend Lois. So in the end, she couldn't come to the event because of a family trip that she needed to go on. If she hadn't gone on the trip, she would have 100% been running the whole evening. So she gave me loads of support from afar. She helped me, get everything ready before she left. She did a site visit with me. So she was like a huge help in putting this event together. And I am definitely going to do another one of these events, and she will basically be running the evening, and will be sort of sharing the mental burden with me of all the things that need to get done, and I'll basically just show up and do what she tells me to do. So in an ideal scenario, that would have been what would have happened. But considering that didn't happen, it still ran really, really smoothly. There was like a few like breakdowns in communication with the venue, which were a little bit stressful the day before, but all resolved, everything was fine. One of the things that I was so proud of, and I did invest a lot of time and money into, was the goodie bags. They were very high quality, very sort of thought through, very on brand. Like I put a lot of effort into those, and I think people really appreciated them. I hope people felt surprised and sort of delighted by that aspect of it. Someone did comment that like all the little details looked amazing. So I got these like pull-up banners made. Everything obviously was very on brand. I had this like post box. Sadly, I didn't have time to paint it. So that was just kind of like this wooden post box. But things like there was like lots of little details, extra bits that people could take away. Yeah, I was so pleased. It turned out so well, and the goodie bags I was extra proud of. So on the whole thing, yeah, went really smoothly. I guess the other kind of fear that I had was, would people feel like it was worth the money, like to go and watch a podcast being recorded when obviously most people will just like, listen to a podcast episode for free. I am so glad with the guests that I chose. So Hannah was sort of like my warm-up act, and I interviewed her first, and she's been on the podcast loads of times. We're really good friends. We had a really good conversation, and I feel like that just eased everyone perfectly into the evening and was really, really inspiring. And then my main guest was Gavin Strange, and honestly I could not have picked better. He is very experienced in public speaking. He was so comfortable on stage. He was really inspiring, engaging. He was full of energy. Like so many people came away saying, oh, his energy was infectious, that they, wanted to go and make things. And so I feel like it totally had the effect and the impact that I wanted it to. And there was loads of value there. Hearing about his work at Ardman was really inspiring. So it did feel like it was extra special, like it wasn't just a run-of-the-mill podcast recording. And it definitely made a difference having the audience in the room, being able to interact with them, hear their laughter. Obviously when you record a podcast episode, it's usually you and one other person, and there is something about collective laughter that really sort of changes the atmosphere or really like lifts things up. So that was really, really cool. And what's really nice is that you can hear that in the recording, like obviously the audience weren't mic'd up, but you can hear them in the background when someone says something funny. And that was a really, really nice aspect of it. Okay, so the person who did the tech stuff, his name's Dan. He runs a studio in Cardiff called Kingsbane Studios, and he did a phenomenal job. Like basically, I could not have picked a worse venue for a podcast recording. Like when you read about starting a podcast, everyone's like, oh, you need to have like really soft furnishings and a small room. And, you've got people out there who are recording their podcasts in like a cupboard underneath a duvet. And I basically found a converted church with the highest ceilings you've ever seen. And I was like, hey, Dan, can we do a podcast recording in this venue? And he was completely unfazed. And he was like, yeah, we can make it work. And he did a phenomenal job. So there was 5 camera angles. He, got the audio, and it sounds so good. So you can go and listen to the first episode that's come out with Gavin. You can tell it's not in a studio. You can tell it's in a sort of bigger venue, but oh my goodness, he did such a good job. So yeah, that was just incredible. And I've just got all this beautiful camera footage that I can use. He got me like extra content of just like the crowd and the audience. And so I'm so happy. So yeah, I mean, I am absolutely buzzing. I don't know if you can tell. I'm still riding a high like a week later from the event. I feel so incredibly proud of what I managed to put together. I also had some incredible sponsors. So I mentioned my friend Matt earlier. He sponsored the event. Amy from Studio Cotton, who's been a guest on the podcast a few times, sponsored it. And then I also managed to get Adobe Express to sponsor it as well. And that just really helped with, I guess, making it exactly how I wanted. It meant I could pay everybody well, like I wasn't needing to ask people for favors. I could make sure everyone was paid. I could make the goodie bags exactly how I want them. I could get the incredible venue, and yeah, I'm just so happy. So if you haven't listened to Gavin's episode yet, it's the one before this, go and have a listen. Hannah's episode is coming out next week, and that's like a shorter episode, but also incredible. So go listen to that when it comes out next week. And yeah, after all those those episodes will come out, the podcast will go back to sort of usual schedule of guest and solo episodes. But I'm definitely going to do another event. I was kind of waiting to see how this had gone, but I'd already started to put the kind of wheels in motion for the next one. So it's going to be in September and it's going to be in London. And I will put in the show notes and under the YouTube video the waitlist link if you are interested in signing up for that. And there will be more information coming out about that soon. I just need to get like a few bits confirmed to make sure that everybody can do the date and yeah, everything's in place. But yeah, so that is my debrief of the event. On the whole, it all went incredibly. I can't wait to do it again. It just feels like a really nice format for an event, and I just feel relieved. I feel relieved that it went so well and very, very happy. So yeah, let me know in the comments or come let me know on Instagram if you would ever go to a live podcast recording. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback. I'm at Liz M. Mosley or at Building Your Brand Podcast on Instagram, and I always love to chat to you about all of these things.